All right, so in today's presentation, we will cover the basics. We're going to talk about the bicycle, some real basic bike maintenance, clothing and equipment, bike handling. We'll talk a lot about biking in traffic because that's very important. Your role in traffic as a cyclist as well as a motorist. Lane positioning, how to avoid crashes, and how to enjoy your ride. There's several things that you can do to really make sure that it's just as fun as it can be because it's a lot of fun. There's different types of bikes, and you might want to choose one based on what you intend to do with it, or use the one you have. It's okay. No one cares. If you're biking, it's all good. This is more of a cruiser bike, much more like you would see like New Belgium making. Okay, the tires are really big and fat. They're usually about 26 inches in diameter. Got a big comfy seat. The handlebars, kind of come around like this, and you have a very upright position because the seat and the handlebars are approximately the same height. So that gives you a real upright ride. This is a mountain bike, totally built for off-road kind of adventures. Again, really fat, knobby tires. And the seat is often higher than the handlebars, just a little bit. So you're not bent over too much like you're going to be on a road bike. But your ride isn't as upright as it would be on a cruiser bike. And everything is beefier. The frame is beefier. It's just built to take a lot rougher terrain than a road bike, which is here. Tires are real skinny, often very smooth. Your seat's even higher than it might be on a mountain bike, although this one looks like it's positioned for a real tall person. And your posture on a road bike is much more bent over in a racing type position. And the levers and stuff are usually right here on the handlebar instead of more up here. And then if you want to get into the fat tire contest, you can have a bike like this. So probably not recommended for commuting, but if you want to get some attention, that would be a good one to choose. What bike do I ride? I ride a hybrid between these two. I actually have a custom built bike built by my son, or one of my sons. He took my old mountain bike frame and he converted it by putting different forks on it. This is the fork, and we're going to get into just real basic bike parts. And rather than having 26-inch wheels like a mountain bike would have, I now have 700 centimeter wheels like a road bike. And so that gives me, I can cover more ground more efficiently. As I crank the pedals, I can cover more ground quicker with larger tires. And I have fenders on it, and I have a nice rack that accommodates my panniers. These just clip on the sides with these clips right here. So they just clip right on. It's real handy. And I even have a coffee cup holder on my bike. So lights, cameras. No cameras, but I could. So identifying bike parts. You might say, I really don't care. I'll have a mechanic think about that. It is real important to know basic bike parts. This is your frame, real important part. Oftentimes, on this picture, your forks are part of the frame. Oftentimes they're not, they're separate. This is the fork, and then you've got the rear piece, your seat, your handlebars. You want to know about your brake levers. The metal part is your wheel. The rubber part is the tire. Your spokes. You've got your derailleurs. This is a front derailleur. And you've got rear derailleurs back here on the rear tire. You've got your seat post. This is often where you might want to clip a light to. Your pedals and your cranks. The part that comes down that your pedal attaches to is called your crank. So as you can see, there's lots of parts. It's not, it's not imperative at all that you have all those memorized, and I don't have them all memorized. But I know how to fix my bike in real basic ways. So, but it's good to get familiar with your bike for sure. Oh, one important thing to know: these are called your brake calipers, and that's important to know because when you have to change a tire, you have to know how to open those up to let your wheel get your wheel off your bike frame. Those are real important. One of the most important things you can do every time you get on a bike is do the ABC quick check. You want to check and make sure you've got air in your tires, okay, and that they're not too spongy and too low. and you can see right around the perimeter of your bike tire, it will tell you what the proper inflation of your bike tire is. So just pay attention to that, make sure that you're properly inflated. On a mountain bike tire, if I'm going over a lot of rocky terrain, I kind of keep it down on the low side of that inflation rate just because I want a little more cushion and give. But out on the road and for commuting, I keep it up almost to capacity, just a little bit under, but that's my personal preference. So like by 2.5 PSI or something. So pay attention to that. Make sure that your brakes are working properly. Take your bike, move it forward. Try the rear brake, which is always on the right. Try your right brake, which is always on the left. Make sure they're working properly. Check your cranks. Just make sure that they're not wobbly or loose. So make sure your cranks are tight and that they're not, kind of wiggling around. Again, I wish I had my bike. I'd show you. Check your chain. Make sure it's not gunked up with too much mud or dirt or sand. With the weather we've been having lately, it's almost a daily thing to make sure that my chain is clean and free of debris and all the gunk that you pick up as you're riding on the wet streets. And check your cassette. That's this part back here. Just make sure it too isn't gunked up and full of debris, and that everything is working properly. Your quick releases. Those are the little they're little releases that you have on your tires. Make sure that those are secure and shut. You might also have them on your seat. Make sure those are secure and shut. Otherwise your seat's going to drop in the middle of a ride. I've had that happen. And also often now on brakes. Brakes also have quick releases, and you just want to make sure that they're down and closed. More than once when I've done an actual bicycle check, I have found people with open quick releases on their tires, and you pick up their bike just to make sure everything is secure, and their wheel drops off. You definitely don't want that to happen. So it's real important. That would be another thing to do. Just pick up your bike and make sure everything is, nothing's going to fall off of it when you're riding. So just make sure you do that check. I have some bookmarks for you. These are really for our little kid programs, but I think they're still really good because it gives you the ABC quick check on there. So I'll just pass those around.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
On your chain and cassette and things, if it is gunky, what's an appropriate way to clean it?
Okay, and that's a real personal preference. I'll tell you how I clean mine. I take a spray bottle full of degreaser. I buy a great big gallon full strength degreaser, and I water it down in a spray bottle, and I spray all this stuff. I spray it all down, and I just let it sit there and kind of soak in, and then I take the hose on a real gentle spray choice, and I spray it all off, and then I do it all over again, and then I spray it all again, and I have a big bucket of soapy warm water, and I wash down my bike, and I don't wash the chain necessarily with the soap, but spray it off all again, and then once it's clean, I'll take not a towel, but I'll take like an old t-shirt. A towel, a terry cloth type towel would leave a lot of lint on my chain, and I don't want that, so I'll take like an old t-shirt and dry off my my chain, and then I have lube that this is what I use. It's a Teflon all year round kind of lube, and then I grease the chain. And when you grease your chain, you want to make sure that you're getting all these moving parts. It's not just running it on one side or the other, but you want to make sure you get all the parts in the link. And I don't know if you can see that. Again, ideally I'd have my bike here and I'd show you, but so just put the tip of it on there and run it around. And then I get on my bike and I ride it and I click through all the gears, and then when I get back I just make sure I wipe up all the excess so that it doesn't attract more gunk than necessary. So that's my lube. So does that answer your question? So I do that about once a week, unless I come home and I'm like just a complete muddy mess or something, and then I'll have to go through that more. But usually about once a week I clean my bike like that. A little OCD, but that's, everybody's got their own preference. So, bike maintenance. How often do you want to clean your bike and take care of your bike? Again, weekly. Check your tire pressure. Every week on a Monday morning I check my tire pressure, and it's usually good for my whole week of commuting. I don't have to worry about it. And, you know, like I said, I clean my bike once a week and lube my chain and just make sure everything is secure and working right. Annually, you want to do a real deep clean. That's cleaning all the, you know, all the pieces and parts. And I replace my brake pads, which we'll talk about in a minute. I check all the wires, and I'm totally at a loss for, thank you. I'm just like, that word just flipped out of my head. I change my cables once a year because I put enough miles on my bike to really warrant that. So once a year I'm changing my cables for my brakes and my shifting my gears. And you want to keep with you at all times, I feel, tools for fixing a flat. So in my bag of tricks here, I carry an extra tube. This is tube sized for my bike. I also pull a little trailer. So I also have a tube for my trailer. So I carry my extra tubes. And then I have my little toolkit. And in my toolkit, I've got my tire gauge. I live with all boys. I have 3 sons and a husband, and actually I have a 4th boy who lives at our house now. So anytime I can get anything that's pink or purple, I do, because, but even then that doesn't guarantee it won't walk away, but I try really hard. These are called tire levers, and these help you get your tire off the rim of the wheel and then put it back on after you replace the tube. And in this short of a presentation, I'm not going to show you exactly how to do that. I carry my compact little toolkit here that has all these Allen wrenches, the different sizes that you'll need to tighten things on your bike. It's got screwdrivers. This is actually a chain repair tool, and there's a real specific way you have to learn how to use that. But sometimes your chain breaks, usually due to improper shifting. And so you have to fix your chain, and that's what this tool is for. I also keep a little pair of needle nose pliers just to grab something that I might not want to get with my fingers. And I have 2 different kinds of bike pumps. These are CO2 cartridges, and this screws onto here, and you just push it right on the stem, the valve of the tube, and it just fills it right up. There's different size cartridges based on what size tube you're filling. So this one's for my mountain bike, much bigger, and this one's for my road bike or for my commuter bike. Doesn't need as much air. I also have, unless one of my sons took it out, which I have a feeling that might have happened, I also have your regular standard kind of mini little pump. Yeah, it's missing. I had a feeling that might have been the case, because I remember now, as soon as I started talking about that or thinking about that, he mentioned, "Hey Mom, where's that bike pump that you have?" And when I bike with my family, they usually don't carry all their own gear because they know I have it all. So, so that's what I carry. That's my little emergency toolkit.
Kim, where do you
Yes.
buy those CO2 cartridges? Just at sporting goods?
Or a bike store.
Okay.
Yeah, they have them right there. And then we have several local stores to choose from, and they're all real good.
Okay.
So that's where you get those. And if you want to learn how to change a tire, YouTube has really good videos. So this is one you could go to, but just search YouTube for bike tire changing, and they've got some great ones. Yes, Doug?
What do you think the cost is of those 4 or 5 things you have listed there? I mean, total. Is it like $50? Is it $100?
No.
$5?
25, 30,
Okay.
probably.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, depending. You know, there's a range. You really fancy toolkits, or you could just get, you know, one that's going to work, or, you know, it doesn't have to be platinum or anything. So, yeah, I'd say 25, 30 bucks. Clothing and equipment, really important. I am all about being seen on my bike, not because I care that people know that I'm riding my bike, but because I want them to see me, because that's huge. It's a huge safety issue. And also wearing helmets, really, really important. And I know, as women, you know, we kind of worry about our hair. I don't really have a hairstyle, and I really don't have one because it just doesn't suit my life very well. Because I can't see wasting time and energy, you know, futzing with my hair only to, you know, put my helmet on, you know, 20 minutes later and, you know, riding to work. So what you see is usually what you get, and that's okay with me. And I hate it when I see people riding out without a helmet, and oftentimes young women I'll see riding without helmets, and I think a lot of it is they don't want to mess up their hair. That's real unfortunate because one fall off your bike, skidding across asphalt with your head, you may never have hair on that part of your head again. So I think it's just really important to wear a helmet, and who cares about what your hair looks like, but that's me. So, so it's also really important to properly position your helmet. I'll put mine back on, and you can see these straps right here, they should come down, and this V should end right below your ear. And I love it when I wear like my dangly pearl earrings and stuff, and they're like flapping in the wind. I just think that's great because it's just kind of a statement. But you also want to have your helmet on straight, so that you have like maybe 2 fingers or 1 finger of space between your helmet and your forehead, not tipped back on your head like this, or tipped forward or sideways. But you want to make sure it's nice and secure, right even on your head. And you want to make sure that it's tight enough. I have this crank on the back of my helmet, which is great because it allows me quickly to adjust for if I need to put on a hat in the wintertime or a headband. Even now I should be wearing a headband. It allows me to quickly adjust the tightness and the inside dimension of my helmet. So I like that very much. And you can also see that I have a little rear view mirror on mine so that I can just kind of glance in there and see if I hear traffic coming up behind me. Are they in my lane? Are they in their lane? So that's kind of an important feature, but definitely not necessary. But I ride enough that I just kind of like to know what's coming up behind me. And then in terms of what you wear for commuting to work, today I wore these pants, and I cinched down the legs with my leg bands, and I wear my dance goes. I used to have toe clips or toe baskets on my pedals, but I took them off because I was messing up the toes of all my shoes. And so I just have flat platform pedals now. Some bikes, like my mountain bike, I have clip-less pedals, and that seems counterintuitive because what you do with those is you actually have shoes that have a clip on the bottom of them built in, and you clip into the clipless pedal. I don't know who came up with that language, but that's how it works. I don't do that for commuting around town because I'm, putting my foot down way too much, and I want to wear my shoes, so that's what I do. This morning was pretty chilly, so instead of having on my camisole top, I wore this underneath this windbreaker. Unbelievably warm, my windbreaker, but I wanted just a little extra layering, so I wore this. Sometimes, if it's not as chilly as this morning, I might just wear my camisole and this jacket. Or in the summertime, when it's starting to I would get much sweatier, I'll wear a tech shirt, kind of like what you have on, ride in that, and then change when I get to work. So there's different layers of, like everything in Colorado, layering is a really good idea. And then when I get to work, I change, and I usually have my jewelry on already, and it's really simple. I mean, I really don't. There's not a lot of prep time there. It's kind of like going to the gym. What you might wear there isn't what you're going to walk out with, but just keep it simple. It's a no-brainer to wear a helmet. 70% of bike crashes in the U.S. are due to head injuries, or crash fatalities, are due to head injuries. And a properly fitted helmet can minimize the effect of a crash by up to 88%. And that is a huge, huge statistic. But unfortunately, only about maybe 25% of cyclists wear helmets. So I think that might be increasing in Fort Collins a little bit because I pay attention to how many cyclists I see with helmets on. Again, oftentimes younger kids are opposed to wearing helmets. And you can see the little guy there happens to be one of my little guys. Several years ago, he would die right now if he knew that picture was on this presentation. But I couldn't help putting that in his scrapbook with that sticker that I found. But there's one thing wrong with that picture, other than the fact that he's not on a bicycle. Can anybody point that out? Yeah, he's got that tipped back. And I would hate to think that I really let him go out and ride like that. I don't know. If he pushed it back, I don't know. I don't know. It was too long ago. I can't remember. So anyway, always wear a helmet. Really important. Again, the being visible part. I have so many different variations of visible. Everything from my visible vest. I wear this a lot in the summer with just, camisole underneath or something like that. But I will also layer this over my raincoat if I want to do that and don't want to layer this over my raincoat. And then in the wintertime, I didn't bring it because it's rather large and kind of bulky. I have an unbelievably bright yellow coat with a hood on it. And my husband's a paramedic for Poudre Valley Health System. And he bought me this coat at the EMS outlet store that's down in Longmont. So I really do look like a firefighter when I'm riding around town with this jacket on. But I'll tell you what, no one can miss me. I think the visibility rating level on it is one that I could stand in the middle of I-25 as a construction worker and do my job safely, and that's the level of visibility it is. So anyway, all kinds of variations of visible. But you could do even something just as simple as this, and I've had this too. Just those mesh vests that you can buy at a sporting goods store or any place like that. They're really inexpensive. Just throw that on over whatever you have on, and that works too.
Kim, is that yellow or whatever
the yellow
color that is that the best color?
It seems to be the most popular, brightest visible color. And if you notice, like the Share the Road signs, and a lot of our road signs are also that bright green color. And actually, I'd have to say my windbreaker's fading quite a bit. It's pretty faded. But it's still got some shiny stuff on it. So I was even thinking this morning, I should probably retire this and get a new one because I've worn it out pretty much. So, and it really is clean. It's just really stained. So. So clothing, real important to be visible. Lights, real important. There's a law in Colorado. You have to have a white front light after dusk, and you have to have at least a red rear deflector. That's the law. I really recommend a flashing red light in the back, but you have to have it at least a red reflector and a white front light at night. And this person got real creative. I think she made her hat out of aluminum foil, but the problem with that is I'm not sure it's going to fit real well under her helmet. So that probably wouldn't be the best choice. So real important to be visible.
Can the light be on your helmet? Or
It
does
can.
It have to be on the bike?
As a matter of fact, I have a new light set that the same son who built my bike, not the same son on the toilet, just gave me, and it clips in here, the front light, and it also has yellow side lights so people can see me from the side, and then it attaches to the rear light. And this one, they are incredibly bright. And it was very cute when he gave it to me. He brought in this bag and he said, "Mom, this is for you." I'm like, "What is this?" And he said, "Well, you spent a lot of years taking care of me and making sure I was safe. It's my turn." And he gave me this incredibly expensive light set, so I thought that was really cool. So. But I still have one mounted to my seat post, a rear red light, as well as a couple little frog lights, which they're little rubber ones, and they just like wrap around the fork or any place. I mean, your handlebar or whatever. They just wrap around and they attach, and they're really handy. They're not the brightest thing, like actually lighting up a path, but at least you have a light. So I have those too. We can ride in all weather. I do ride in the winter, as Doug pointed out. When I ride in the winter, I dress like I ski. And if I can feel comfortable skiing in the weather, then I can feel comfortable biking in the weather. Some people change out their tires and put on studded tires. I personally don't do that here because we don't have enough days when there's actual ice and snow continually on the road. And it's kind of fun just to ride through the snow, the fresh snow. Gets a little dicey with the ice, and sometimes I'll just get off and walk across some real dicey areas, especially the road crossings where they plow the snow. If you're on a path and then you have to cross, that gets a little interesting sometimes. I might even have to pick up my bike and haul it over a big snow drift or something, but definitely doable, but a little more hardcore. even just riding your bike, 25 days a year reduces your carbon footprint by just an incredible amount. So don't feel like you have to ride in the winter. But if you want to, it's totally doable. And the guy up there, I think he's really brave because he's got little skinny tires. I still like my bigger, wider tires like I have year-round. I just feel a little more secure. We're going to talk about bicycle handling. First thing that's real important to know are your signals. Real important to signal. Just like when you're driving a car, you want to be predictable. You want to let people know what your intention is. You want to be real intentional. So you probably are familiar with all these, but we'll go over them anyway. To make a left turn, you simply put your left arm right out there, okay? To make a right turn, there's actually two legal ways of displaying that. One is you can put your arm up like this, or you can put your right arm out this way. This came from when cars looked like that and they didn't have turn signals on them. And the driver had to indicate with his left arm, keeping his right arm on the steering wheel or on the shifter, that he was going to make a right-hand turn. That's where this 90-degree angle actually came from. And I personally feel, again, this is my opinion, that this is better in most situations because if I'm in a bike lane, which is on the right side of the road, cars are on the left side of me, they may not be paying any attention to what I'm doing over here that's not as much visible to them. So I just put my arm up like this so that they can see what I'm going to do. So, and then stopping, you just put your arm down like this and even just kind of give it a little backward, motion just to let people know, slow down, stopping, important to do. When you're on your bike, it's important to think about what gear you're in, and you just have to be on your bike and get comfortable with that. Like if you see a hill coming at you, you want to gear down in enough time to make it comfortable for you to pedal up the hill instead of getting part way up the hill and going, oh my God, I better shift down. That's where you get into trouble and you might break a chain if you're not shifting properly. I also think it's important to gear down into an easier gear when you're coming up to a stop sign or a stoplight so that when you start up again, it's real easy to pedal instead of being in a really high gear and you gotta give it all you've got to get going because you want to get through an intersection quickly. So I think it's important to think about gearing. Starting and stopping. When you come to a stop and you're getting ready to start up again, you want to keep your pedal at like a 10 o'clock position or 2 o'clock position. Have the one that you're going to start with, whether it's your left or your right foot, kind of cocked up here so that you've got a lot of momentum right away turning over the crank. Does that make sense? Okay. And it's important to steer in a straight line. No weaving in and out. It's kind of fun to do because you're on a bike. Bikes are fun, but again, be predictable. Steer in a straight line. Which one of the? Okay, right here. This is important. My office is over by the hospital, so I often travel down Elizabeth. And there's parking on the right side of Elizabeth, but then there might be a pretty big stretch where there's not another car parked for a while. I don't weave in and out of those parked cars because I want this traffic to know I'm right here, okay? So it's important to continue to steer in a straight line rather than weaving in and out of those parked cars. I thought about that on my way over here. I'm like, that's a perfect example. Elizabeth Street or any of these streets. Another thing to watch for, people opening their car doors and watch for rear lights, brake lights turning on indicates that somebody just got into their car and might be starting it up. Got to watch out for that. So I always give myself enough room between myself and the car to accommodate an opening a door that's going to open and potentially get me. So watch for that. So steer in a straight line. Scanning, real important. Just like when you're in a car, be really conscientious of what's going on around you. If you're making a lane change, scan, look over your shoulder, scan, look again, look left, look right. Do all those things like you would do when you're driving a car. Just really make sure you know what's going on around you and scan the road before you make a move, and then make sure you signal before you make a move as well. All right, a really good rule is that bicyclists fare best when you act like and are treated like a vehicle. So when you're on the street, when you're on the road, act as though you were in your car and act like a vehicle. That is the safest way to operate your bike. Drive on the right side of the road. Again, just coming down Elizabeth, there was a bicyclist on my side of the street going the wrong way against traffic. Go with the flow. Always go with the flow. Whether you're on the street or even on a sidewalk, go with the flow. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Yield, obviously, to crossing traffic, just like you would if you were driving your car. Yield when changing lanes. Watch your speed positioning. And we'll talk about that in just a sec. And your intersection positioning. So now I want to refer to these posters because I think they demonstrate everything. You want to turn like a motor vehicle right here. I think you mentioned you see cyclists lining up behind cars sometimes. If I'm going to make a left-hand turn, like that, the bike lane's over here, I am not going to make that left-hand turn from the bike lane because I'm just like a car. I'm not going to make a left-hand turn from the right lane of traffic. I have to position myself right behind those cars in order to make a safe left-hand turn. And as a bicyclist, you have every right to be on the road, just like any other motorized vehicle. You have every right to take the lane. That's kind of the lingo and the language. You can take this lane in order to make a safe turn. So don't be concerned about that. And if there's one spot on my daily commute where I take the lane and I'm going to go straight. I live at Trilby and LeMay, and I weave up through Oak Ridge, and I cross Harmony on McMurray, and then I go by, there's Safeway on one side, and there's I never get this right, the T.R. Paul Art Charter School. At that next intersection, a lot of cars take a right because there's some industrial type businesses back behind that school, and they take a right there, and there's a bike lane, and it continues out in front of Cruz Elementary School. But if I don't take that lane, and I've driven it enough to know, they will take a right turn right in front of me. So I get right out, I get in position, I'm right in the middle, and that's another thing, be right in the middle of that car lane, and then I cross the street, and then I get back in the bike lane. And I do that because I don't want somebody taking a quick right turn in front of me thinking that they're going to be quicker and whatnot. So that would be another reason to get behind cars. This left-hand turn gets real tricky at LeMay and Horsetooth. If you're going north, right there by the golf course, sometimes I'll take LeMay up, and I've got to maneuver myself. That's where I really have to scan. I have to totally indicate that I'm moving left. I'm getting over in that left lane, and then I'll get right behind those cars because there's not a left bike turn lane there. You have to get, there's two left turn lanes there. I get in, the one on the right, and make my left-hand turn and then get into the bike lane, and then off. I usually take that right turn back to get onto LeMay, and I just drive just like I'm a car. And people shouldn't be going that fast there anyway, so they just have to wait for me and be patient. So, and hope that they are. And usually they're pretty nice. So, does that kind of cover? I mean, you just have to, watch for what you have available as a cyclist. If you've got a bike lane, you should be in the bike lane. But you can totally get out and take a lane if there's debris in the bike lane or a utility truck. You have to get out in that lane of traffic. And so scan, signal, and then make your move to do whatever it is you need to do. So that makes sense? You have to feel hopefully today when you leave, you'll feel much more confident, perhaps, about going out and riding. And I would even offer that if you all want to do a group ride sometime, I'd even come over here and I could have a little route. And you can even ride College Avenue north from Laurel. You can legally ride College. You cannot ride College Avenue south of Laurel all the way to Harmony. That is, you can't ride. But there's alternative ways to get around. And I know that was one of Doug's questions, and we'll talk about that too. So, before I move off of this, let's see. Roundabouts, take the lane. There are no bike lanes going around roundabouts. You take the lane, get in the center of that lane, and I read a column in the paper, maybe it wasn't a column, I think it was a letter to the editor when we first started getting roundabouts. And the author of the letter said that he grew up in Europe, where this is very common. And what people don't do here, but they should, is signal when you intend to turn out of a roundabout. Just like you would if you're going to take, a turn onto a street. So I make sure that I signal on my bike. I get right in the middle of the lane, I signal and get out. If it's a double lane roundabout, stay in the right-hand lane. At least you've got some maneuvering options if you need to make a quick exit, and you won't be up against the curb over here. Okay. We talked about scanning. We talked about not weaving. As a motorist, this is what I described right out in front of that charter school. As a motorist, be real conscientious here of cyclists. It's totally legal to stay in this bike lane and then to continue on. I just know from experience some of the intersections where people kind of ignore that. Matter of fact, I almost T-boned a car. Like I said, I live at Trilby and LeMay, and I was almost home. I was at LeMay and Pheasant Drive, which is right turning into Huntington Hills. And I was approaching this intersection. There's a stoplight, and we had a green light, and I was scanning back over my shoulder to kind of try to make some eye contact with the cars and to see if any of them had their signals on as though they were going to turn. And there was a car right about here. I looked at her, she had her signal on, she was slowing down, so that indicated to me that, okay, she understands, I'm going straight. And she aggressively sped up to try to make that turn before I could get through the intersection. And I slammed on my brakes and did an endo and landed out in the street. It was really quite something. But I didn't get too hurt. So that's another place where I might just take the lane. If there's a lot of traffic there, I'll just take the lane now and continue through and then get back over in the bike lane. Because I'm not going to take a chance of somebody cutting me off with a right turn. Who's talked about stop signs and stoplights? Stop at all of them, just like you would in a car or like you're supposed to in a car. I know you lose a little momentum, and I guess I might honestly say, do I absolutely come to a complete stop and put my foot down? No, I really don't. But I come to enough of a stop that if I had to do that really fast, it wouldn't be an issue. I almost come to an absolute complete stop, and I might just balance on my bike just a little bit and then continue through if it's safe to do that. But please don't ignore red lights and stop signs. I hate it when I see cyclists doing that. I hate it when I see motorists doing that, but you really have to follow the rules of the road just like you do when you're driving a car.
So if it's a red light and there's no traffic coming, are you allowed to cross?
No.
Okay.
No. You really have
to wait for the green light.
And I know it's hard to be that patient. I know how, and there's so many times I want to run that red light. But I also know that I have to set a good example for the community based on what I do. So sometimes if it's really long, I'll look, there's no traffic coming, I'll get off my bike, walk over and hit the crosswalk button, get back over. It's kind of tedious, but that's really what you have to do to be legal and safe. So don't blow through a red light even if you think there aren't any cars coming. Because some little kid might be watching you.
Right.
Anyway. Again, totally legal for you to take the lane. Act like a car when you're on the street. And I think it's safer to be on the street after you're about 12. It is legal to ride on the sidewalk, but if you are, make sure you're going on the sidewalk in the same flow as traffic. And you cannot assume that a crosswalk is a safe zone. Whether you're walking, rollerblading, biking, whatever. Too many people do that, and that is not a safe zone. I think you don't have to, it's not legal. I think it's safest to get off and walk your bike across an intersection. That includes driveways, that includes, entrances to businesses. That's just too much getting on and off my bike for me, so I'm just gonna stay out in the street. But definitely, regardless of whether you are comfortable riding in the street or on the sidewalk, go with the flow of traffic.
What if there's no sidewalk on the other side? I have a tag along, so I have my son on the back, and there's no sidewalk on the other side of the street. Right. And I'd like to stay on the sidewalk with him.
That's an unfortunate situation. The majority of car and the majority of vehicle and bicycle crashes happen when people are riding the wrong way. So.
And where I'm talking about, there isn't a whole lot of driveways or anything that come out.
Yeah.
It's just one little section when I take them to school.
I don't know if you can walk it, or, I mean, the safest thing to do would be to ride with the flow of traffic, even if you're on the street with them. And I used to pull my kids in Burleys, and we had a tag along and all of that. So I know, I feel your angst, but it's still the safer way to go. Yeah, common crashes. Again, this right hook. That's a biggie. The broadside, somebody coming out of a driveway, a cyclist that doesn't stop, they broadside the car. This is another example of a right hook that a cyclist is coming straight and this car is going to turn left and just nab them. Just be really, really conscientious of what's going on and try to make eye contact with all the vehicle drivers. How do you avoid crashes? Being predictable. Being intentional, letting people know what you're going to do, being visible. Make sure you've got your lights. Make sure you have. You don't have to necessarily wear reflective clothing, but I highly recommend you avoid wearing black or brown or dark green clothing because you blend into your environment and you are wearing camouflage basically. So wear some bright color, whether it's hot pink or whatever. Just try to be really visible. And if you can afford it, or if you can, even just get one of those mesh vests with the reflective tape on it. I mean, at the very least, it's more important to be seen than have the consequences of getting hit. Watch out for dogs. Dogs like to chase bikes. I don't have that happen too often. Sometimes I'll take my squirt bottle or my water bottle and squirt them, or just yell at them, and they usually run away. Watch for the wind. Wow, it's been a windy spring. I have been almost blown off my bike more than once. So just watch for those, and on a windy day, just make sure you've always got both hands on the handlebars and you're ready for any kind of a blast. Surface defects, watch for potholes in the road, watch for vertical lines in the road that might be running parallel to you so that you don't accidentally get your tire caught in there. Railroad tracks. On railroad tracks, make sure you cross perpendicular to the track. Don't try to kind of cut across it at an angle. You might get your tire stuck in there. That would be a really bad thing. Manhole covers, and then those other smaller ones. There's actually a couple that are missing around town, and I can't think of where that is, but I'm seeing it every day, so it must be, I don't know where. But anyway, they're like totally missing. So we've just got a hole in the road. So just, watch out for those kinds of things. Again, control your bike. Just keep your hands on the handlebars. Be real confident. Be a confident rider. Obey the rules of the road. Choose your lane positioning well. You can take, the city offers a Traffic Skills 101 course. It's a day-long course, and I've actually taken it. It was a lot of fun, and we learned on our bikes how to do some crash avoidance. There's a quick turn that you can do that you could perhaps avoid this scenario. Had I known this little trick, I could have perhaps, it's where in this situation I would have turned my handlebar really quick to the left and then really quick again to the right, and I would have made a really fast right turn and gone parallel with the car instead of having to slam on my brakes and endoing. Endoing is going end over end. So that would have been a great crash avoidance skill to have had at that time, which I didn't have. And again, wear a helmet. So these are the 4 skills that you can learn in that class. A quick stop, how to stop your bike really fast, like on a dime, using both brakes, but in a real balanced way. How to dodge a rock or some other thing that's in your path. How to do an avoidance weave, and then that instant turn, that quick turn. And again, they can, for free, you can take this class, and it's really great. You can get out half the day you're on your bike, so it's a lot of fun, and they feed you. So speaking of feeding, make sure, like any other sport, eat before you go out. Make sure you take snacks. I had snacks in my bag until I got hungry yesterday, and I ate my little Cliff Bar, but make sure you're properly hydrated. Always take something to drink with you. preferably not alcoholic, because it's just as illegal to ride a bike under the influence as it is driving a car. You know, I've got a water bottle cage on my bike. When I'm mountain biking, I wear a hydration pack, so I have a lot more water, and I have water bottles on my bike then too. You know, have some good whole foods with you. Don't rely on necessarily junk foods. You know, fruit, some power bars, whatever you like. It's real important. You'll enjoy your ride more. Etiquette is huge part of cycling and really any part of life. I think if our whole society were a little more polite and nicer to each other, it would just be better in so many ways. So being predictable, that's part of having good etiquette. Not only is it safe, it's just nice. Yield the right of way. You know, maybe you don't have to, but you know, if you've got a mom towing a bunch of little kids and you know she's pushing a stroller, just be real nice and give her the right of way. Or maybe it's an older, you know, couple on their bike, and you know, don't scare them by blazing past them on the trail. It's also a law in Colorado to give an audible signal when you're going to pass someone, whether it's on a trail or if you're in a bike lane. On your left, or if you have a bike bell. I don't have a bike bell, but you know, you ring your bell, let them know. I always just, or sometimes I have to say on your right, because I say on your left and they like jump over to the left. I'm like, okay, I'm slow now, pass on your right, or you know, whatever you have to do. Just be safe and try not to hit other people. If you've been on the trails in Fort Collins, you'll see a little triangular signal. Actually, it's an upside down triangle. Cyclists have to give way to both pedestrians and horses. We often have horses on our trails, and pedestrians have to give way to horses. So when you're a bike on a trail, you're the big guy. Pass on the left slowly, preferably on the left if whoever you're passing is going to allow you to do that. Again, the audible signal, using signals, we talked about that. Yield when entering or crossing other trails. You know, don't just assume that you've got the right of way and can blast through. The 3-2-1 courtesy code. There's a law in Colorado now where you have to give a cyclist 3 feet of space between yourself and the side view mirror of your vehicle when you're passing. Cyclists are allowed to ride 2 abreast if they're not impeding traffic. And they have to get single file if riding 2 abreast is going to impede traffic. So you have to get single file. So that's the 3-2-1 courtesy code. And I want to show you now what 3 feet looks like. So I need a volunteer from the audience. Who's going to be brave?
I'll do it.
Thank you. All right.
Good job, Mike. Thanks.
So I'll take 2, actually. Who's my other one? Yeah, you.
Right here.
You just come up here. Okay, so you can be the cyclist. All right. And you get to be driving a car. This is your driving hat.
Cool.
All right, and you need to be on that side of your cyclist. And I want you to put your hand on your hip like this. This is your side view mirror.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. So, if I were going to be 3 feet away, our room is small, but you can see, you know, you're parallel. Yep. That's not even far enough. You need to get over this way, or you need to move your vehicle that way, preferably. That's what 3 feet looks like. So that's a visual for you. So make sure you're giving cyclists at least that much space if you're driving a car. And as a cyclist, hope that people are giving you that much space when they're passing you.
So how does this work outside of town? I drive Wrist Canyon a lot, and especially this time of year.
I know.
What do you recommend for a driver? I would never ride that. I'm not that crazy, but like for drivers, I can't always give them 3 feet of
And
space.
they're not always riding 2 abreast, are they?
Usually
I know.
not.
I know. It's a real problem, and we are trying to. All right, we can stop. That's a real problem. I mean, your job as a motorist is still to try to give them that 3 feet. I mean, that's the law, and you could be ticketed if you don't. Now, they could be ticketed if they're not riding smart and riding. In Wrist Canyon, they should be single file. I mean, they just should. And I know that they're not. it's an issue that's being worked on and addressed from various directions. So hopefully these courses and these presentations, we're educating cyclists and we're educating motorists. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we're hitting the elite cyclists, but we're still trying to get the word out in other ways through the Bicycle and Pedestrian Education Coalition. So we have a pretty broad-based membership. So okay, so and use lights at night. We went over that. Oh, I even have my light. I could have showed you. There you go. I even carry extras to give to people that I see who, so this is what attaches to my front, and that's the back. If I hit one,
Wow.
yeah. It's really, really bright. You can see the side lights, so that's. Why ride your bike? To save money. I just saw a statistic today that said if you make $10 an hour, you have to work at least 300 hours a year in order to be able to commute by a vehicle. When you're riding your bike and making $10 an hour, you only have to work 30 hours a year and still be able to afford commuting by bike. That's a huge difference. Think of the cost savings. For the earth, and that's self-explanatory. We're not using fossil fuels, we're not polluting the air, we're not polluting water because we don't have oil and antifreeze dripping out of our vehicles. There's just so many reasons that you can ride your bike. Health and wellness, another huge reason to ride your bike. You can read the statistics, but it's just, I run and swim and I do other things, so riding my bike to work is just an extra. I don't even consider that part of my exercise, although obviously it is, but it's just how I get around. So in my OCD mind, I don't even count that, but if you just ride your bike to work, I mean, you just get fresh air, you get sunshine, you get some vitamin D going, and it just, I don't know, mentally it just makes me feel better to get out and kind of have that air. Even on a windy day, I'm really trying to come to terms with the wind. You know, it's still better than driving a car. So lots of reasons to ride your bike. And BPEC, we do these presentations for free. Donations are always appreciated. And you can go to our website. This is healthylarimer.org. You can look for BPEC. You can get more information there. For routing, we have a link to Google Maps. And you can select what kind of a cyclist you are, whether you're a novice, intermediate, or advanced. And you can select, you know, where you want to go and where your origination point is, and it'll map your ride. Here in Fort Collins, the best routes for traveling north and south are the Power Trail on the east side of College Avenue, and then we've got the Mason Trail on the west side, and then we have several good routes east and west. There's the Pooter Trail, there's the Spring Creek Trail, and many of our streets have very well-defined bike lanes now. And if you notice out here on Mountain Avenue, we now have what's called sharrows, and they're the arrows that I think there's 3 of them in a row, and then they have a cyclist on there, and that's supposed to indicate to motorists that obviously there's not a bike lane there. Cyclists have every right to be in the lane, and that, I mean, that's the case anyway, but that's just kind of a visual signal for motorists that that's the case. And at the intersection of Shields and Plum, where a lot of college students cross over to go by Moby Gym, they're going to put a bike box in right here, which will be a big, you know, painted space, and so all the cyclists can go and get in front of the cars and cross much more safely here instead of trying to jockey for a position and take a chance of getting hit by cars turning right onto Shields and whatnot. So there's many things that are happening in our community to make cycling even safer, and you'll see more and more of those. And after this weekend, you'll see some really cool banners downtown that says Fort Collins shares the road, and you'll see those up both now and then again in the late summer when the students are coming back. And I was privileged enough to be part of the group that is working on getting that. And the city council is making a proclamation that says Fort Collins shares the road. So slowly but surely we're trying to infuse the community with these messages about, you know, who has the right of way, who doesn't have the right of way, you know, bikes can be in the lane of traffic, that kind of thing. Your business is going to shortly provide incentives for you to ride or bike to work, I believe. So that's very exciting, and we're encouraging many more businesses in town to do that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.